All right, one of the things that I learned here from both of you, you in basketball, you in football, is that a lot of stuff that happens off the field, off the court, shouldn't and doesn't affect stuff on the court because it's a game and these are grown men and they're doing their jobs. But with what happened this week, what was your reaction? Did that all culminate in what we saw on the court last night, Nick?
Well, listen, what we saw on the court last night was, as we've seen time and time again, this Warriors team, no matter how much talent they had, if Steph Curry's not playing, they're an average basketball team. I don't know how, I don't know why. When you have Durant and Clay and Draymond, it shouldn't be the case, but all the numbers say this year, last year, any year, if Steph's not out there, they're an average basketball team. Now, last night, it was exacerbated.
Well, most of the NBA teams that have 2 superstars or 2 all-stars, they're just above a 500 team in this new NBA. If you look around the league, if you only got 2 all-stars, right?
Sure, I think
and because you have more all-stars, you don't have the type of bench that those other players will have as far as the veteran players. It becomes hard to win in this NBA.
Sure, I agree, but I think in most circumstances, I would think that a team with Durant and Clay and Draymond would be better than this team has been over the last 2 years when Steph's out. Like, I'm done with the discussion about who's the best Warrior. I don't care anymore. I know who the most important guy is. It's the guy who's sitting out with a groin injury right now in Steph Curry. But last night was just not about them not having Steph Curry. That was, to me, about the Warriors, and this surprised me. I was surprised they were 4-point underdogs in the game. I was surprised how they played in that game. I thought they'd rise to the occasion. I thought Durant would play a monster game. I thought he'd play angry. I thought he'd take more shots than he did. I thought that at the very least the Warriors would have something to prove to the outside world, even if it was lies. We're fine. Don't worry about us. We're still the Warriors. And last night, they did look like a team, to your point, Jenna, in disarray. They looked like a team that wasn't on the same page with each other.
That's one thing, man, I learned at a young age, and it came out of not playing basketball well, upset. When I was younger, I used to have a really bad temper. And my brother Butch, who went on to play in the NBA, he was totally the opposite. Always calm, always cool. And he used to tell me, you can't play basketball like you play football. So it's nice to think, yeah, Kevin Durant, he's going to be mad. He's going to be upset. But you can't play basketball with vengeance unless you're a post player. Unless you're a guy that's going to take them into the paint, you can play mad in the post, but you can't as far as the skill level. Being mad doesn't doesn't help your jump shot, doesn't help you to be able to pass the ball. So being upset in basketball, it doesn't necessarily help you. So that's why you see a lot of guys who try to stay cool under the pressure, and we don't see a lot of guys who can be physical and be mad and play effectively for a long period of time. So I didn't expect that. And Kevin Durant is not a conflict guy. And if you're in a relationship with a person who likes to deflect conflict like Kevin Durant does, that's why you have burner Twitter accounts. He is not a confrontational person. So I didn't think he would take this and go the right way with it. He's not that type of person. Now, Draymond, he can do that. But Draymond, when you have guys on your team like him, regardless of how much you're winning, he wears on you. He wears on you day after day. Now, Draymond, if he had gotten to this same confrontation with Boogie Cousins, I could have thought, yeah, this would help the Warriors because both of these guys can take it. And there's a lot of truth to this. Kevin Durant is leaving. Kevin Durant does have the organization in the palm of his hand, and he can decide to do whatever. He's the only one that can do that. But the reason why I'm not going to panic is because the MVP in the NBA, he was over on the sideline in street clothes.
Right.
And there is no answer for Steph Curry. And also, Cousins is going to be with him at some point this season. So, man, they're going to drill Houston. They're going to drill some teams in the playoffs. So I'm not going to overreact to this. But this is a foregone conclusion. Kevin Durant, they will never be able to repair the stuff that Draymond said to him, the stuff that he told him, and Durant knows that there's a lot of truth to what Draymond was saying.
Well, and the reason that Durant was so wounded by this, and I read Chris Haynes' great story that has almost the exact quotes word for word. It's as good of an accounting of it as I've seen. I listened to Zach Lowe and Howard Beck talk about this. I really tried to go deep on everything that was happening here. The reason Durant was so wounded by this is Draymond, in that moment on the bench, forget calling him the B word, but when he said to him, go ahead and leave, we don't need you,
right.
We won without you, you know who Draymond was? All those folks on Twitter that Durant be arguing with. All those folks that Durant still is still dealing with that. Durant made a legacy move to go to Golden State, and it hasn't given him the legacy points he thought he was getting. He's dealing with that from strangers on the internet sending him snake emojis all day,
to now the
every
NBA
day,
greats.
and now his own teammate. 3 feet from him is saying everything. Because in Chris Haynes' article, it says Durant wasn't really reacting to Draymond repeatedly calling him the B word. It was when he said, "We don't need you, we won without you," that Durant visibly winced. And that's when the team, according to his article, that's what the team said. That's a line you cannot cross.
And leave now.
Yeah.
Like that's hard. Like,
okay, so
forget about we're going to win this championship. Like, you can leave right now. I believe those things, the combination of them, will have a lasting effect.
it may be a foregone conclusion that he's gone, but what does that mean for this season? Does that affect them this season, or do we look back and say, oh, that was a little hiccup they had and whatever? Or do you really think that somehow this is going to permeate and become a problem all season long?
Well, some of the effect it's going to have on them is socially. How much interaction are they going to have together? Because I just don't see. I haven't been around a lot of athletes.
Does that translate into success?
I just don't see a lot of athletes that you can speak that way to and continue the same way. It's no different than the relationships that we're in. When you got significant people in your life, there's a certain level of respect you are expecting. And you are not expecting that person, because of the commitment to the relationship, to step across the line. Kevin Durant's not committed to the relationship. He's only committed to this regular season. So now what I say to you don't necessarily matter, because we ain't committed long term. You're not going to be here. Draymond is stuck there unless they decide, the organization decides to side with Kevin Durant and move Draymond. But, you know, when you're in a committed relationship, you got to be careful what you say, and there are lines that you cannot cross. And I believe Draymond crossed one. It will affect them how they are. Anytime Steph Curry got to come over to your house to try to be able to solve some grown man problems, you know you do have issues.
When you say there's lines you can't cross, we're all in, like you said, committed relationships. And we all probably know something we could say to the significant other, the nuclear option, that there's no coming back from. Like, there's a line you cannot cross. And Draymond, I do feel, crossed that line with Kevin Durant. It wasn't calling him the B word. I understand for C, that's a trigger for you, and you've talked a lot about, man, you say that in an NBA, NFL locker room, those are fighting words. But Durant responded, that was, especially being around Draymond for years. You know Draymond, like Jalen Ramsey, a little spicy mouth, as you would say.
Sir.
He's going to pop off sometimes. Draymond went with the single most cutting thing he could say to Kevin Durant.
Intentionally.
Intentionally. Yes. And that is hard to come back from. Now, to your question, I still think Draymond's right about what he said. We're going to win a bunch of games. We're going to win another championship. But
that could be true.
But what was, in my eyes, Durant already had the wandering eye. And he was already planning an exit. The only way he was going to stay was an overwhelming joy of the season, the joy that the Warriors had in the 73-win season. That is gone now. So now I don't see a way that this thing continues past this year. I don't think it's Draymond's fault, but Draymond certainly didn't help the situation.
Wow, no one saw this playing out this way.
Watch
like
that wondering
sand through
eyes.
the hourglass.